Hello, everyone. This is Brett. Thanks for tuning in to the new episode of Eclectic Playlist, where I show some of the records that have been played during the week. Since it is October, Halloween month, everything is going to be on the darker side, whether it is post-punk, goth, industrial, soundtracks, anything related to that. Thin Lizzy jailbreak today. All right, let's get things started. As always, I've been starting out with some new releases, and keeping in spirit of the theme, this is the Cult's new album, their 11th record, Under the Midnight Sun. I absolutely love the packaging on this one. Nowhere except for the spine does it say the Cult. Song track listing is not even listed, but surprisingly, when I saw the artwork for this, I immediately recognized that it was the Cult. 8 songs. I think it clocks in over 35 minutes, which I think is just an ideal, perfect length for an album. I got the black edition, which feels like it's like 200 gram or something, super heavy. I know there is I don't know if it's an indie exclusive white edition. So the Cult, sure most of you are familiar with this band. I've been a fan of theirs since the 80s. Probably their landmark albums are Love, Electric, and Sonic Temple. So this one is interesting. 4 songs on each side. Give Me Mercy was the first single, and I find that track to be just completely addictive. It has this really great guitar hook from Billy Duffy. The second side is a bit more down-tempo. There's some orchestral strings in there, some really atypical guitar tones. There's a solo on side B from Billy Duffy that it almost didn't even sound like him because of the guitar tone. Really cool stuff. There's even a remnant of that guitar tone from maybe like a She Sells Sanctuary from the Love era on one of the songs on side 2 as well. So really happy to have this, and I've probably listened to it at least 5 times so far and really, really enjoying it. All right, so let's get into some stuff from the collection. First off, this one I had to pull some Chameleons. This is The Fan and the Bellows, which was a 1986 collection of early recordings, non-album tracks, early singles, 7-inch versions. I mean, you got Less Than Human in shreds, Nostalgia, Chameleons, Manchester post-punk band. And I pulled out some Chameleons because my band Audra is playing with the Chameleons on Wednesday, October the 19th in Arizona at the Nile Theater. So pretty excited about that. If you're unfamiliar with the Chameleons, their first 3 albums are just post-punk classics. All right, next up, here's one from a short-lived band. They only released 2 albums back when they were out, 1988-89. This is the LA band Red Temple Spirits. This is their second and final album. If Tomorrow I Were Leaving for Lhasa, I Wouldn't Stay a Minute More. So kind of tribal-esque. I would put them somewhere between like a Southern Death Cult and maybe like Jane's Addiction. Really unique vocals. The song Alice is my favorite. A City of Millions, Soft Machine, all great stuff. And it closes out with a cover of the Pink Floyd song Set the Controls. The Heart of the Sun, is that what it's called? You'll correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But this is a reissue, and I have to show this because it cracks me up every time I look at it. Take a look at the title on there. Anyone notice the grammatical or spelling mistake? Where? And I was thinking, oh, it's probably fixed on the spine, but no, it's also on the spine. So it should be Were, W-E-R-E. A pretty bare bones reissue. I've had this for quite a while. Mannequin, I think it's a German label, reissued it. Like I said, this band was pretty short-lived. And the bass player, Dino Paredes, he ended up being kind of ran the graphic design department at Triple X Records, and I remember his name on the first Shadow Project album that Roz Williams, after Roz Williams left Christian Death and formed that band with Eva O. He had did the artwork for the CD edition, and then he later popped up at working for American Recordings with Rick Rubin, and from what I remember, he was like an executive there. He signed some bands, maybe it was System of a Down, but he ended up having a real music executive career after this band. But be cool if they got back together and did some shows or released some new recordings, because if you're unfamiliar with Red Temple Spirits, check them out. Independent Recordings did some reissues of this as well. I know there was a CD box set. So if you're unfamiliar, definitely check them out if you like really kind of tribal post-punk, goth rock. All right, next up, this is Attrition. This is their 1988 album, At the 50th Gate. If you're fans of like things like Skinny Puppy, Dark Wave, kind of industrial stuff, Martin Bowes from Attrition has been around making music since probably about 1980 from Coventry, England. And they were label mates with Audra on Project. They've been on Invisible Records, they have a huge catalog, and Martin mastered our last two releases as well as the singles and EPs that accompanied it. So this is Attrition. All right, next up, some real classic German goth rock, post-punk. This is Exmal Deutschland, Fetish. Really intense stuff. I've had this in the collection for years. I think I got this in the early 90s, I think it was. Kind of reminiscent, if you're a fan of like Siouxsie and the Banshees, kind of Juju era, just really upbeat, just intense vocals, really good stuff. I have another record, I think it's Toxin up behind me, yes. Exmal Deutschland, this was on 4AD. Excuse me. Next up, Mirker, Danish. Her stuff is really varied because she's kind of categorized in the black metal realm, but then she also releases some albums of like traditional, like Nordic folk music. So this one is called Mausoleum, and you guessed it, she actually recorded it in a mausoleum. It's a beautiful recording, choir, just really minimal, I think, guitar and piano. And I want to show you the record on this because it makes me think of an eyeball. Really cool stuff. And this is on Relapse Records. If you're unfamiliar with Mirker, definitely check her stuff out. It's not easy to really pin down her sound, and that's a good thing. All right, next up, one of my favorite bands. This is The Sound. And this is their 1984 EP, Shock of Daylight. I don't know, it came in two different covers. I think this was the American cover. Post-punk, the late Adrian Borland on vocals. Just an incredible band if you're unfamiliar. Probably highly underrated, but at the same time, really gaining more and more popularity. These days. I did a video, Friday on the Turntable, feature on The Sound years ago on the channel. This EP has a couple of my Dreams, Then Plans, maybe my favorite song from The Sound, and Winter is just great. That's The Sound, Shock of Daylight. All right. So this album, when this one came out, compared to the first album, Three Imaginary Boys, 17 Seconds was a real departure in that more kind of punky sound that The Cure had released on that first album. So 17 Seconds, more dark, more brooding, more atmospheric. Synths, has the Cure classic A Forest on there, but you also have Play for Today, In Your House, At Night, M3, and that just brooding instrumental piano opening, A Reflection. 17 Seconds. The Cure. Oh, and while we're at it here, I pulled this one out from the collection because The Cure's Just Like Heaven, which really catapulted them, their 1987 single, just turned 35 years old just the other day. This is my copy here. You can see Tower Records sticker still on it, hype sticker, shrink wrap. $3.99, has one of my favorite Cure B-sides, Breathe. It also has a Chain of Flowers. One of the other reasons I'm showing is this is just one of my favorite songs of all time. I never get tired of it. And I remember it came out when I was a freshman in high school, and I had recorded it on cassette off of the radio. And I remember my older brother would just come in my room and just say, every day after school, you play that same song over and over again. And that was just like heaven. It's still a great one. All right, next up, Siouxsie and the Banshees, Kaleidoscope. Probably another departure, too, coming off of their first two albums, Scream and Join Hands. This is the 1980 album. You had John McGeoch from Magazine join the band, so you have his great guitar creativity on Happy House. Christine, you also had Budgie join the band on drums, and this is where the Siouxsie and the Banshees, I think, really just took off, and then Juju after this, which was incredible. So Kaleidoscope. All right, let's see. We got one more here. All right. Been listening to a lot of John Carpenter this time of the year. His movies, the soundtracks. We pulled this one out. This is Lost Themes 3. This came out actually 2 years ago, 2020. It seems like it was not that long ago. I'm sure you all are familiar with John Carpenter. I mean, all the way back, the Halloween soundtrack, most people know him from. But he's been releasing these albums with his son and I think godson, and all instrumentals, almost like lost themes, songs that could have been theme songs from various soundtracks. And this is obviously part 3. There's a part 1 and a part 2, and the Sacred Bones label, which I've talked about, have been releasing them. This is on this really I forgot what they called this, but it's almost got like this slimy splatter, kind of a color inside of the color, clear with all this, with a purple splatter and then a green blob in the middle. Synthwave, heavy, almost like, let's just call it heavy metal guitars at times. Really reminiscent of the 1980s. Just great stuff. John Carpenter. All right, I think that wraps it up for today. So let me know what you guys are listening to, and I'll see you again soon.